Hey everyone, so today I'll be walking you through a recap of my recent trade, showing you the analysis I used to frame this trade idea and what the positive and negative confluences were. The purpose of this video is to give you insight into my strategy and analysis so you can take away any value that I give in this video in order to improve. This content will be aimed at those who are not yet confident or a bit inexperienced in their own price action analysis and or interested in seeing liquidity, SMC, ICT based strategies and price action analysis. So let's get into it. So let's start off here. This is the trade in question. It's on the 5-minute chart at the moment and it was on 31st of January. This was my first trade of the month and fortunately was also a win, right? So ended January in profits. You see it was a 2.2% move, right? And it was a continuation of the order flow after some sell side liquidity was swept, right? So here, just immediately what you can see on the 5-minute, I entered here, and there's also this order block below, which I'll explain why I didn't enter there or wait for it. Okay, so I'll move up to the 15-minute for now. On the 15-minute, what you'll see here is we had previous daily lows here in the morning through Frankfurt into London. We swept those previous daily lows. You can see here with this X, we also swept Asia, the bottom of Asia, which gives us a bias, right, that we could go long from this liquidity sweep here. Now, even though if we go up to the hourly, we were in this sort of bearish trend, right? But if you look internally, since the previous day, we had mitigated this 4-hour order block very much in discount. We then had an up move from there and a pullback, mitigating another fair value gap, right? So this broke an internal structure high on the 1 hour, right? So internally, even though the external, but what I mean by external is the external structure. So we've got a high and low here. However, internally, we've now broken a 1 hour high internally to give us a possible pullback or switch in the direction or trend. Okay, we pulled up to this premium, mitigated a 4-hour and 1 hour fair value gap, right? This gap here was for both time frames. Once we did that, we had our bearish pullback, and which, coming into this day on the 31st led us to sweeping the previous day lows. Another reason as to why, and the confluence as to why I'm okay with going long from here, is now we've swept sell side liquidity, but we've closed as a sweep. We didn't close below this low. So there's still some intention now that this leg still remains, this internal leg still remains, but either way we've swept the internal sell side liquidity now, and we may head back up, even if it's temporarily, for some internal buy side liquidity or beyond, because the trend may have changed. You can see here I've got this 1 hour fair value gap fill. In order to add to my bullish bias on EU, we had these fair value gaps or imbalances here. These would attract price because price wasn't offered at those points, and that is also why my TP was there, right? Because this was a major negative once filled. However, it was also going to attract price for the bullish momentum after taking sell side liquidity. So back down to the M15 now with more of a higher time frame picture. You can see we had the nice closeout, rejecting this low, sweeping the previous daily low in Asia sell side liquidity. Then the lower time frame showed its intention for bullish behavior by having a break of structure from these highs here, because this high created this new low on the M15, and then we broke above it, right? We broke above it pretty strongly at this point, and one of the negatives was obviously, we had fulfilled some of that fair value gap, so that was now a negative. However, the ultimate target remained, right? So it was all going to be about what other confidences we have to counter that. If you look here, you can see this was also a 15-minute order block because we had a fair value gap there as well. So we had this 15-minute order block and we had some inducement. So it's more obvious on the 5-minute. We'll go down to the 5-minute and add up the confidences again. We had the 15M break of structure. Then on the 5M, that was actually a second break of structure. We had one break of structure here, small pullback, swept into this fair value gap, and another break of structure, right, which was quite strong and impulsive. So then we had this small pullback, leaving inducement above our 5-minute order block and also 15-minute order block. So we had a nested 5-minute order block here using the last candle. We had a 5-minute order block here and we left inducement and then eventually pulled back. Could have had a more corrective pullback, but with the inducement it was nice. So initially I wanted to enter here, especially after this first 15-minute break of structure. So this 5-minute order block down here is a negative because it can attract price, right? How I determined where I was going to enter, because at first I had confusion, was again using a higher time frame to that of the 5-minute. When I went to the 15-minute, I thought, why would price have to come all the way down here if the 15-minute is already mitigated? There's no 15-minute order block or imbalance to attract price. So I mitigated my risk from that, saying, okay, there is a 15-minute order block here, there is an imbalance on the 5-minute, there is a 5-minute order block here with imbalance. Price is possibly likely to reject at this point, instead of order flow and price wanting to fill a 5-minute order block, right? It's more than likely it's going to respect the higher time frame one. So as you can see, set my order here at 0824, and in just over 2 hours, I believe it was, yeah, just 2 hours, we filled that fair value gap and hit TP. So after this initial, bounce back and I suppose again a sweep of this low internally, it was quite quick to go to the upside. Of course, I took my profit at this fair value gap, even though there was precedence for more and price did go for more, but there was news that day the London session was ending as well, so going into New York Open, etc. So I chose to not push it and go there. Now I'm going to show you also the added confluence of DXY is what gave me my confidence to actually execute this trade and also take profit in the same place I took profit. So here we are on DXY, right? Just like on EU, it swept the internal high of Asia, right? Swept that buy side liquidity, broke down. Let me go to the M15. So swept that liquidity, broke down. However, as you can see here, right, we had a 1 hour fair value gap nested within a 4 hour order block. Even though the higher time frame isn't moving that well on DXY at all, it's just internal breaks of structure, no real trend since mid-January. It gave me confidence now that we've mitigated higher time frame POIs, taken a previous day high buy side liquidity, and swept the internal Asia high liquidity, and with the cycle bias of taking Asia and going the other way, I've now got both DXY and EU displaying those confluences that are pros for me, right? This same breakdown, breaking the M15 structure, and then we've got this 1 hour order block and 1 hour fair value gap to fill, right? So I expected this to line up with the EU fair value gap, which it should have, but there was a bit of divergence, right, which eventually it came and filled, and obviously that's where I left some profit on the table. So between here where I entered, and here with TP, it made this move here, right? So yeah, it was the higher time frame confluences on DXY and the liquidity swept on DXY and EU that made this trade good and high quality, and I was confident to execute. I hope that's clear and you've got loads of value from that, and all the confluences I used and how I analyzed the trade. Obviously this trade went on to just fly, right? There was news and whatnot, whatever, and it went up to eventually take some more buy side liquidity. But that was it for me for the day, because of all the news that happened in New York, and it was a good way to end January. So to reiterate, I hope you got the value from that. You've seen my analysis, you've seen the confluences I used, how I used DXY and EU together, right? And how I made that decision to enter this trade, and also how I distinguished between my order blocks, what made one more favorable than the other, which allowed me to capture this trade. If you did get any value from this and you want to see more, then subscribe, like, and comment if there's something that you don't think I explained properly. I would really appreciate it. So thank you.